Are you feeling any kind of anti-Semitism in Detroit right now?
Yes, it's a little uneasy, I will admit. I always told my kids that the potential for anti-Semitism is always there, although I never thought we'd necessarily see it. So if you're not aware, there was the big attack on the largest synagogue in the United
I
States
heard.
that occurred in
Yes.
the Detroit suburbs. That's a mile away from my house.
So right now we're in Machne Yehuda market in Jerusalem, and I'm going to ask people about fake news and about the reality in here. Stay tuned. First of all, what's your name?
David
David.
Eisner,
Where are you from?
Detroit, Michigan.
Oh, Detroit. So right now, how long are you gonna stay in Israel for?
We're here for about 2 weeks.
2 weeks? Oh wow, that's incredible. Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, where?
I was staying in Tel Aviv, but we came here today. I think we'll come a little more to Jerusalem.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
we're gonna go up north a little bit.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, are you feeling any kind of anti-Semitism in Detroit right now?
Yes, it's a little uneasy, I will admit. I always told my kids that the potential for anti-Semitism is always there, although I never thought we'd necessarily see it. So if you're not aware, there was the big attack on the largest synagogue in the United
I
States
heard.
that occurred in
Yes.
the Detroit suburbs. That's a mile away from my house.
That's insane.
In fact, my wife's cousin is the director of the preschool, and that's what was attacked. It was attacked as a preschool for 140 children between ages of 0 and 5 years old.
Civilians.
Of
Only
course,
civilians.
Yeah. There's no military. Okay,
Yeah.
it's kindergarten teachers, nursery school teachers, and small young children. So after that attack, definitely, we were definitely put on notice. The attacker, it turns out, came from a city that has the highest and largest concentration of Arab and Muslim Americans.
Surprising.
Well, you never know where an attack can come from, but we know that person came from that area.
Yeah.
There was even about a month and a half later. So where that attack happened, that's pretty much predominantly a Jewish neighborhood. There are 9 Jewish institutional buildings in that area. 9. So Jewish Community Center, a number of synagogues. We happen to go to one of the synagogues that are nearby. Again, the same mile road, if you will, as the temple that was attacked. That was Temple Israel, and it's a Sephardic synagogue. We go to a Sephardic synagogue there. And just a month and a half later, a very suspicious person parked in the parking lot on Shabbat. We have this on video. He was surveilling the building. Looked back into his front seat, his back seat, put something on. We couldn't see exactly what he was putting on. Then came to the front of the gate of our synagogue, and he did not realize that there was an armed guard in a truck that is at our synagogue. He did not see that, and the armed guard came out of the truck, and he jumped. He was startled, and he said, "What are you looking for? Can I help you?" To this gentleman. The gentleman said, "Well, I'm looking for a gas station," which was odd because there are no gas stations right at that corner.
Yeah.
He said, "I'm sorry, there's no gas stations." And then he said, "Can I use your bathroom?" So the guard said, "No, you cannot." So the gentleman got back into, he was in his car the whole time, but he rolled up his window and he left. The guard followed him out of the synagogue campus, followed him down the road. He passed the gas station, by the way, never stopped, even though he said he was looking for one, right? And we did call the police and the FBI, and they had said, the FBI later said that they were able to trace him through cameras on the intersection lights. What the FBI director said to the president of our synagogue was that we are very, very right to be suspicious. They know who this is. They know exactly where his house is. In other words, they followed his car, and we were right to be suspicious. And probably he was thwarted that day from an attack by this guard. So the answer to your question, yes. For those 2 examples, yes, we are feeling more and more anti-Semitism. I've got one more example to give you.
All right, give me, of course.
I'm coming out of that synagogue. So this is last year, June. So June 2025. I'm coming out of that same synagogue with my son and my 2 sons and a few other folks from our synagogue. And we walk home from synagogue to our house. Somebody driving in the opposite direction. We're on the sidewalk. They're driving. They raise their fist in the air and they say, "Free Palestine." Yeah, they yell out, "Free Palestine" to us. Okay, so you think it's kind of
How they knew
harmless.
that you're a Jew?
Okay, so it's clear that we're. How do they know? First of all, that's right. And if they knew we're Jewish, what does that have to do with Free Palestine?
I agree.
See, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Right. These are all very interesting questions.
Yes.
So okay, it sounds harmless. Well, we were wearing our yarmulkes.
Ah, you're yarmulkes.
Yeah, we were wearing our yarmulkes
Yeah.
at the time, so they could see that we were Jewish.
Yes.
I don't know. It was disturbing, but nothing happened. He sped away. Now, again, our intersections have these cameras, right? And his vehicle happened to be a very bright orange vehicle. I thought about it for a week, whether I should go to the police or not, whether I should go to the authorities. And after a week, I said, I'm going to go.
Okay.
So I went to the local authorities of where we live. We live in West Bloomfield, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit. And I told them, look, I want to tell you something. And if you feel I'm exaggerating, I'll turn on and leave the police building. I told the police officer that.
Okay.
And they said, okay, what happened? So I told them what happened. I told exactly what I said to you. And the officer challenged me, and they said to me, okay, let me just challenge you with this. Why is this not a free speech issue?
Okay.
And I said to the officer, the reason why this is not a free speech issue is because I was not inviting a political discourse.
Okay.
I wasn't holding a sign. I wasn't screaming anything. I was wearing a religious article on my head. That is the only reason why I was targeted, because of this thing on my head.
Yeah.
That's called religious harassment, not political free speech. I told him, imagine if it was reverse. Imagine, and we have a lot of Arab Muslims in the area, imagine if I saw a woman with a hijab walking on the same path, and I yelled out my car window, "Free the hostages!"
Yeah. Yeah.
Or "Free the hostages."
Yeah.
In other words, they said "Free Palestine." What if I said "Free the hostages"? What does that woman in West Bloomfield, Michigan, who wears that job, have anything to do with the hostages that were being held here? Nothing.
Yeah.
Same thing. In other words, that would be harassment also. When I told it to the officer immediately got it, so I give them credit. And I said to him, now I told you this, I'm still willing to walk away. And they said, no, fill out a report. Let's fill out a report, because we are taking statistics about the chatter, the level of chatter in our neighborhood, in our area. We want to know what is the level. We want to know if it's getting dangerous. But these types of things are happening more and more. In other words, whether it's myself, my youngest son also experienced somebody. He was walking home from the synagogue. This is even before that. This is a year and a half ago. And somebody basically called him and his friend a kike. Which is a derogatory term against Jews. They were walking home from synagogue as well. And then my oldest son experienced the horrendous, moral depravity of what was going on at University of Michigan. Okay, I will tell you that when in the last year of his senior year, we went to visit the University of Michigan, and someone had put posters up of the hostages after October 7th. So we were there in November. I want to think about this. We were there in November 2023. This is his senior year at the University of Michigan. And those posters were torn in half. Somebody went and tore them. It's unbelievable.
You think things got changed since October 7th?
I think, here's what I think. I think the cat's out of the bag. I think we all now know what people really think about Jews, because people are less afraid to say these things out in public. I also think, though, with the election of the new administration in the White House, they took pretty swift action where they very seriously took on the universities and started to defund them based on how they reacted to anti-Semitism. And then the universities got scared. So now, in today's universities, you see a lot less, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, Alex, you could tell me. I think at the universities you don't see the kind of anti-Israel protesting, which really wasn't anti-Israel protesting. They claim it wasn't anti-Semitism, but it was, because it was targeting Jews, right? If you were a Jew, you were automatically, quote unquote, assumed, right, to be somehow connected, to whatever they perceived as going on, which isn't okay. Again, it's like that thing I was saying.
Just seeing a Jew and like he blaming him for
A
Israel.
woman with a hijab in West Bloomfield, Michigan, is not responsible for the hostage crisis here.
Yeah.
Okay, she's not. Okay, same thing. I'm a Jew in West Bloomfield, Michigan. I can't be responsible or held responsible. But the fact that I am held responsible, or the fact that I'm targeted, that's anti-Semitism.
I agree.
That's what that is.
And how do you think we as the Jews can stop this, or at least live with that? Because as you said, like there's no safe place anymore for the Jews around the United States. There's anti-Semitism just rising up. What we can do as the Jews to change their minds?
So I used to more and more actually do presentations on the Arab-Israeli conflict for many years, actually. And I guess I'm coming to the conclusion, and I've heard this by other Israeli commenters as well that have said this. I'm not so sure that there's much we can do to change the hearts and minds of people who are convinced that Israel is the bad guy. I don't know. I don't know if there's much we could do. I think the more important thing is that we're convinced. I think it's more important that we understand that.
I agree with you.
And there are many Jews. There are many Jews out there who still don't understand, in my opinion, that what happened here with October 7th and everything afterwards, is really, it's the same thing as the 1929 riots in Hebron and against the Jewish Yishuv, well before the establishment of the State of Israel, right? In other words, the attacks on the Jewish people from their right to have self-determination, okay, has nothing to do, and anti-Semitism, which has nothing to do with even the State of Israel, because those things happened before the State of Israel. So I don't know. You can explain. There are people who are not Jewish who are willing to listen if they're honest. When I used to give my presentations, I used to tell them, look, I'm going to give you a narrative. There's another narrative out there. You're welcome to listen to it. Here's my narrative. You're welcome to listen to my narrative. And if you choose what narrative you think makes more sense. And as long as you put out there a good faith effort about the logical evolution of how the rise of the State of Israel came to be, going just very simply, very, very steadfastly, going back to how Jewish rights were recognized under international law after World War I. I think you can win as long as the other side is willing to listen. So for example, just very quickly, if you have the ability to explain that Israel, Jordan, Lebanon, Yemen, Saudi Arabia, all of these countries that I just listed, Syria, all these countries that I just listed are all inventions of post-World War I League of Nations mandates. If you start to claim that the Jewish national home doesn't have a right to exist, why does the Arab national home or any Arab national home or any Arab country have a right to exist? All of these countries are just as new as Israel. If Israel doesn't have a right to exist under those international legal principles, neither do those countries. Once you start to frame it in that way, people start to understand, oh, I get it. So Lebanon was a creation of the same mandate system that Israel was. Yes, it was. That's right. So if you deny Israel, you might as well deny everybody. Everybody can be denied. Who says? I remember my son had a roommate, a Jewish guy, who actually asked him, why should there be a Jewish state? A Jewish guy said this, and he told me about it. And I said to him, you know what you should ask him? Ask him the opposite. Ask, why should there be an Arab state? Why do you assume that there should be an Arab state that exists? Because those states didn't exist. Those states that I just talked about didn't exist over 100 years ago. So why is it assumed, okay, that they exist, but Israel doesn't exist? And that really lies at the heart of the problem. Because what are we fighting? We're fighting a propaganda machine that basically says, you, the Jewish people, the Zionist movement, has stolen something that rightfully belongs to someone else. The question is that claim true? And if it isn't true, why? Or if it is true, why? Can you prove either way?
Yeah, I totally agree. I thinking that in the end they're going to hate us, like you said, no matter what. Like their opinion already changed, so we can do nothing about it, and we just need to do whatever we need to do to survive and to have life. Because you see in here, there's no apartheid. We all enjoying, we all smiling. There is no genocide, and we just need to stay.
It's I think one of the first things that I showed my son when after the October 7th attacks happened was an article that was in CNN about a United States attack in Afghanistan that happened in 2022. I forget the month, but they were after a terrorist. He was on a bus, and the American military decided that they're going to strike the bus with a missile. Okay, I believe it was launched from a helicopter. Even if it meant to kill everybody else on that bus, they made that decision. So I remember because that was the question. Well, how do you explain how do you explain so many people being killed in Gaza? Any one person killed in Gaza that is innocent is it's not even a numbers, it's a tragedy. Even one person killed in Gaza is a tragedy.
That's a
The,
war.
the question is whose fault is that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
When the United States dropped the atomic bomb on Japan and Nagasaki and Hiroshima, in my opinion, the United States didn't do that. The Japanese government did that. The Japanese government dropped that bomb. What do I mean by that? They didn't have to start this war. They started that war. And unfortunately, they begged to finish it. And it had to finish with the United States being victor. So the question is who's responsible? Who's responsible for every death in Gaza? Hamas.
I
It
agree.
is not the state of Israel that's responsible. Every innocent life is tragic. Even one is tragic. But it's not the state of Israel's fault that one innocent life, even one, is tragically killed in Gaza. It is Hamas's fault.
I agree. You know, every house that I went inside, there was Hamas flags, there was terrorists inside, and every time, me, it's an IDF soldier who's been in Gaza and Lebanon. I know that's the truth, but unfortunately, people overseas, they just seen all the social media, and of course, a lot of that it's AI, a lot of that is just fake news, and they bring in pictures from all over the world. If there's people starving in Gaza, maybe, but because of Hamas, they're still in the food, but no one talk about who is really blamed for that, who to blame.
Same thing. I mean, if you want to go back, same thing with the quote unquote refugee situation, the quote unquote Arab Palestinian refugee situation. At the end of the day, whose fault is that? Is that the state of Israel's fault? Or could it be that had the Arab world not foisted their war against the Jewish state, there wouldn't be even a single refugee? Who's responsible for the refugee situation? It is, in fact, the Arab world. It is the Arab countries and their terrorists that decided to try and attack the Jewish yeshuv that had a right to exist under international law. This is whose fault it is. And that's the moral depravity, unfortunately, of what we see in the universities, that they cannot see or refuse to see or refuse to acknowledge this moral principle. In the same way, the United States in the same way that in the United States ended the war in Japan by dropping those atomic weapons, and they had no choice but to do it. Okay, it's not the United States' fault that they dropped those bombs. It is Japan's fault that they dropped those bombs until Japan would surrender because they started it. They started that war. Okay, so that's their responsibility.
I agree, and I think we need to stand strong as Jews living here in Israel freely. And in the end, we just need to stay, happy. Wear our yarmulke, be proud, and that's it.
So that's it. Be
Yeah,
proud. Don't be afraid. Do the best you can. And the galut is getting. Well, the jury's
yeah,
out in the United States. We'll do the best we can. Maybe we'll make aliyah. We're thinking about it. So,
yeah. Thank you so much.
all right.
I'm Israel Chai. Thank you so
So,
much.
okay.
Appreciate that. If you watch the video till the end, if you like the video, please follow me, share the video, like the video, and of course, for me, it's really important to make a real content for people on the ground. I'm Israel Chai, and see you next time.